This segment is brought to you by Jigmaster Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com and use promo code PNF20 and save 20% off your next jig order today.
Welcome to the Bass Kayak and Beer segment on the Paddle and Fin Network. It's your host Armando Sola, and on this segment we kick back with a special guest and talk about life, kayak fishing, and the pursuit of big bass. So get your cold brews on and enjoy the show. You're listening to the Bass Kayak and Beers podcast on the Paddle and Fin Network. Got a special episode for you today. First of all, we got our special guest, John Lessman, joining us. And we also have Daniel Perry or Dan Perry from The Reel Down. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Hey.
Doing good, thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us on, man.
Well, thank you, guys. First of all, before we start, always shout out to our sponsors, Douglas Rods. Check out Douglas Rods. Go to douglasoutdoors.com to check out the full lineup of LRS rods and the Matrix rods. And also, they have great award-winning fly fishing rods. So go check them out, douglasoutdoors.com. So
I'll tell you what, man, Brad Hicks got some LRS rods, man. I'll tell you what, that purple, the LRS rods, those things look slick now. I like that color.
And the Matrix is good. The good thing about I promised my audience when this is not a plug-in. Well, thank you for the sponsors, but quick story. I closed the car door on my LRS rods when I went fishing this morning, getting them out of the truck. So I broke mine this morning, and that's my one finesse technique that I was gonna throw net rigs around, because it's getting cold here. So I was like, crap. But the good thing about Douglas rods is $50, get a brand new rod. So
there you go.
It's nice.
pretty cool. So, anyways, we're gonna talk about our top 5 baits for this season. What works best for us, each one of us. Not promoting. I don't believe anyone. I'm not sponsored by any bait company. I don't know if Dan is. I don't know if John is. But we're just going to talk about the baits that work best for us. This is no plug-in. This is no promotion. Again, we're not being sponsored by this. We just want to really talk about what worked best for us this year. And hopefully we can, share some knowledge, help you guys out, especially those of you that are starting off in kayak fishing, to help you guys out. So, John, let's start with you. Well, let's do this. Let's do each one of us is their 5, then your 5th, Dan's 5th, then my 5th, and then we'll go over again, your 4th, Dan's 4th, and my 4th, all the way to get to the 1. Is that cool?
That's cool.
Dan, you like that?
Yeah, we'll take turns.
Perfect. So, okay, so John, let's start with you. Number 5 bait this year from bottom to top.
A number 5 bait, and this was the bait that helped me take third at the Classic this year, was I brought them, is Nate's Custom Baits Hybrid Vibe, or actually the Hybrid Skirt Spinner Bait. It's a young man out of Indiana, Nate's Custom Baits. He uses bucktail on his skirting, and it just gives it a unique presentation. And then you put a trailer on it, and it becomes live, and you wonder why the smallmouth guys up north are using the black hair jigs. Well, there's a reason why. And this was the bait that propelled me that day, and they couldn't turn it down. And this is my number 5 bait. And, you're like, why 5? But I got some other baits that ended up kicking its butt. But for a general all-around fishing grass, weed lines, pad edges, creeks, small rivers, I wore the smallmouth on it too, is just that good old spinner bait has just worked magic.
Nice. Do you that specific color, white color, or any color work for you, or is that one the one that worked for you best?
Believe it or not, when I throw a spinnerbait, most of the time it'll be white, and I'll usually do like a chartreuse grub on it. But usually I don't get crazy on spinnerbaits. I'll have some black ones for like low light or dark, really dark water or so forth. But just mostly I just throw a white because I'm trying to imitate that shad or bluegill. But yeah, white's normally just all I throw when it comes to spinnerbait.
Cool. What trailer do you like to use that one on? What's your favorite trailer on that setup?
Actually, I like to use a white grub, 5-inch grub, or 4-inch, depending. Just kind of really what's available. And white or chartreuse. And if it's white, I'll usually always dip just the tip of in chartreuse or orange, depending on the time of year.
Just a tip.
Cool.
Just the tip. That's
it. Now, does it have it's just the bucktail, like the hair jig, like the hair, and it also has those I guess plastic little hairs that go with it. So it has both of them, right?
Right. It has the bucktail, and then it has like the living rubber, and it's white and silver and flecked, so it kind of gives it a shimmer in the water. And then the blade has a white blade and then a clear flasher. So it really looks good coming through the water. And this thing's tough too, because a lot of spinner baits, they're dead after.
John, okay, you got caught up there, John. Sorry.
Dead like your internet. Just kidding.
No.
What was that last thing you said?
I said this has been really a tough bait because a lot of times on spinner baits, after about 25, 30 fish, they're dead. And this one's caught several big fish, and it's still kicking. So I've been pretty impressed with the wire.
There you go.
That's my number 5.
Number 5.
That's one technique I need some severe improvement on spinner baits. Yeah.
When all else fails, go to spinner bait.
There you go.
How about you?
Oh, me?
Okay. With you, yeah.
Probably like one of my it's one of my favorite baits of all time, a lipless crank. I wore them out on Gunnersville this year, and something I think it's probably a bait that's gotten better. A lot of people have went to the chatterbait, lip bladed jig, things like that, and I think the lipless crank has kind of went out of favor. So it's even gotten better. But I wrote a bunch of different brands, but the Profound Outdoors Shaker Z. I usually like a hard knocker in the spring, and then a BB style, like a shaker with a lot of BBs in it, usually more in the fall whenever the water warms up. The Profound Outdoors Shaker Z Knock Knock, 6 Sense, Quake Thud, Bill Lewis. That one's, the paint comes off pretty easy, but that one's good because it will go super shallow. The Booyah Hard Knocker, which used to be the Excalibur, that's good. Live Target Golden Shiner, that's good. There's just a ton of good ones out there. Yeah, those are always good. Usually throw on 17-pound fluoro. I'm usually throwing it around grass. It's usually more like you use a few different retrieves in the fall. This time of year, that late fall, early winter, you're using a yo-yo. So if you're listening to this right now, a yo-yo retrieve is really good. Right now, you can still catch them on, whenever they're chasing shad at the end of the year. It's more like that dying fish, bait fish presentation. Usually throwing on a faster reel, 7.3. I use a Quantum, 7.3, 17-pound fluoro. I use a 7-foot medium heavy composite rod. It's a Halo cranking rod. It's a good, decent rod, good value rod. And I use a bunch of different colors. Translucent, I wrote all these down, but translucent for overcast but clear water. And you can pause this and go back and listen to it. Silver for clear, sunny, but clear water. Gold for sunny, but staying water. White for overcast, staying water. Chartreuse for dirty water. And red-orange or green tomato. That's a little secret color for if you like Strike King. And dirty pre-spawn. So that's kind of the colors that I keep.
Kentucky Lake in the spring is green tomato.
There you go. That green tomato, that's a sleeper, man. Mark Menendez, he has a color on or he has a YouTube video. That's what turned me on to that green tomato color.
Nice. That's a hell of a lot of information, Dan. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. Go back, pause it, listen to it. But that's the colors I carry and all that. And it's 90% of the time if it's a half ounce, and I don't ever carry that quarter, but a 3/4 can be good too, but usually the 1/2 ounce. Start there.
We got the spinner bait and the lipless crankbait. Those two of my original baits that I kind of should go back to using those more often. Kind of like gotten away from it. We'll talk about that. A lot of it has to do with my number one choice. But my number 5 choice is the Zoom Brush Hogs. They have this color that I understand they're gonna discontinue it, and it's the something like South African
South
color.
African special.
The South
Yeah.
African special. It's kind of like it's black and with a lot of like I don't know, a lot of like flakes from different colors, kind of like a carnival kind of thing. That
Almost like
brush,
Christmas.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's like you call that Christmas.
yeah, that brush hog on a Texas rig is what it's worked wonders for me this year. And I actually had big bass on a tournament, so that got me $70.
There
Um,
you go.
so it is. I love the Zoom brush hog. Always have. It's one of my original ones that I started using since I started bass fishing. But that particular color, I don't know what it is, but it just. I've tried other brush hogs and the green ones that I usually dunk the tails a little bit on that garlic scent chartreuse color. Those work well as well, but that South African special has worked wonders. And if I understand, they discontinue that color. I don't know why, but it is an amazing. This is my favorite soft plastic, the Zoom Brush Hog. That
What
that little kicking action is awesome.
what size do you use? Did you go to the medium
Oh,
whenever it came out?
yeah, I have I think it's the medium, not
Medium.
the
Yeah.
yeah, not the small one, but the medium. I thought there were only two sizes. What's the
No,
largest
they
size?
did have a small and a large, and this year they came out with the medium.
What size is the medium then? Because I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I
That's
don't.
about
It's
a,
I don't
that's
know.
about a, I think it's a
Med-
6 inch. If I'm not mistaken,
I
might be
don't know.
the. I didn't know that they came
I
out.
don't know
I
how
know
big the large one
it's.
was.
I thought it was the baby brush hog and then the brush hog. I didn't know there was another one now.
Yeah, there's a medium now.
Well, whatever the original was, that's the
Yeah,
one.
that was the big one then.
Yeah.
That's
So
the kid brush hog, you know.
Yeah.
that is, I don't know. Those brush hogs, once you bounce it and you bring it up and you let it drop, that fluttering, those little tentacles on the back, especially if you dipped it in that JJ's Magic or whatever garlic scent you used. Actually, mine is scentless because I can't stand the smell of garlic on my hands the whole day. But
You're
that
Come on
doing it
now.
right.
You don't go home and your wife loves that smell?
damn,
It's like, baby, let me smell your fingers.
that got weird.
Sorry. Man, I'm drinking these muchachos, man. It's Friday night. Things are liable to get weird.
I had a spicy margarita earlier, so I'm good.
So, anyways, I throw it usually on, depending how deep I'm gonna go, is either tungsten bullet weight. Either I use a 1/4 ounce or a 1/2 ounce. So usually I'll throw it. In this case, I mostly did it on the 1/2 ounce and on a 7 foot heavy fast action rod. So cool. That's my number 5. We got a soft plastic, spinner bait, and the lipless crankbait. Okay, John, what's your number 4 bait?
Classic.
My number 4, I have a theme going here with Nate's, but like I said, I've drank way too much of the Nate's Kool-Aid, but it's paid off.
Lost. There you go.
He makes a really swing football jig head, and I put a 8-inch red shadworm ribbon tail on it. So when this is on hard bottoms, round rocks, things like that, I'll drop that joker, and when it hits, it just flares out once again with the bucktail. And as it's moving, or I can swim it slowly, that ribbon tail is just kicking. And then when it comes, it'll stand up there, and that tail just kind of floats and moves with whatever. And oh my goodness, I've had way too much fun on that little bait right there. And so that's Nate's the swing head jig. and it's worth the money. And I love it in the red, as they call it, the fire, and smallmouth, largemouth, and I fish at the red in this all year long, and I've had great success.
Do you still throw a football jig or just that now?
Just that.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah. I used to be a big jig fisherman, and just kind of got out of it. I mean, they work great and they do well, but I'm usually on a worm or something like this or something else that he makes another type of jig that I use, and I just use them. So my standard, unless I'm using the swim jig, that's a different story. But yeah, I've kind of fallen out with jigs. Might be bad, but
no, it's working for you.
I've been trying. I actually lost my favorite jig today fishing. That's another one. But I've been trying to get better at the jig fishing. I just, for whatever reason, I'm like Brian Latimer. He's like, I can't do it. I don't know why I can't catch anything on that jigs.
Well, springtime swim jig. Oh, stand back.
Yeah. All right. How about you, number 4, Dan? What's yours?
Probably one of my favorite ways to catch a fish is a Stanley top toad. It's a Stanley top toad. I mean, you know, a popping frog is great. A hollow belly frog is great. But I think one that kind of enough people don't throw, and I'm glad that they don't, is that Stanley top toad. Because not only is it like a toad bait that you can, a moving toad, but you can also stop it and pause it like a hollow belly. The hookup ratio on it's great. It stands up for a long time, so they're super durable. And you just throw it on same gear. I throw it on 50-pound braid, like a medium, a 7.3 heavy rod. You're throwing it on like a Super Duty reel. I usually put on a 7-speed reel, so something fast so you can catch up to them. But a 6 or a 7-speed reel, either one's fine. But yeah, a white, black, and I used the bluegill color, so 3 colors: Stanley top toad, 50-pound braid, heavy rod, and a fast reel and 50-pound braid, and you're good to go. And that's a legit setup, and you can catch the mess out some fish on it.
That's Brad Case's secret weapon.
Is it? Man, I'm gonna go to Calling Panther. I'm gonna go wear out some fish. Then I've wanted to go to Calling Panther for so long.
Oh, he'll take you. It's a fun lake. It's an awesome lake.
I want to go. That's like his little lake over there, over in Mississippi.
His honey hole.
Yeah.
So is it like a hollow body frog? No, right? It's just like a soft plastic.
Yeah, it's in between. It's like its own
hollow body soft plastic.
Exactly. Yeah, it's its own thing, man. And it's a great all around bait. If you want a toad and a hollow bellied hybrid, it's a great frog to always have tied on.
Well, it gives it that kicker, that plopper. It's that part of that plopping frog. But then, it's not like most plopping frogs that start to sink because they're heavy. That stays like, your good old top water. And so that fish slow coming up on it, you can just kind of play him and bam.
Yep. Yeah, so if you're reeling and let's say it's, you fish it like a toad, so if you see a fish kind of waking on it, you can stop it and kill it, and it's not going to sink. It's going to sit on top, and then you can start moving it again. Stop, kill, stop, kill. It's a fun bait to fish, especially if you have
that one again?
A Stanley top toad. Especially if you're fishing real light grass mats like on Gunnersville or anywhere Tennessee River. If the mats aren't real heavy and they're real light, that is the perfect frog for it.
Or new pads.
What's up?
Brand new coming up.
Yep.
Does it come already rigged, or you just use?
Yeah, it comes a couple different ways. You get one. You can either buy it with like one hook with a bait already on it, and then you get 2 other ones, or you can get one already rigged with a hook, and then you get one other one. So it comes in a couple different configurations.
And you can always buy the hook separate too.
Yeah, or you can buy extra frogs to go with it. But they last a long time too.
Cool. Especially if you have Mendip.
Yeah, there you go.
That's pretty cool. So keeping in line with that, actually, my number 4 bait for this year was actually buzz bait. So kind of staying with the top water theme here. The buzz baits that work the best to me, and I don't have the name of it right now. I forgot. I shouldn't have wrote that down. I threw away the packaging, so I can't even remember. It's not the War Eagle, but it's this buzz bait. And I remember Fluke Master talking about it about 2 or 3 years ago. They actually discontinued this buzz bait, and I think they brought it back. It's this buzz bait that um has this clacking sound because it keeps hitting the head of the buzz bait. You know, the blade keeps hitting the bait until it actually wears it out. Like if you look at my buzz bait, the top of it is just like eroded from all the times that that blade just keeps hitting it. It makes a loud clacking noise. I find it that it works best when they're not high pressured. If it's like a high pressure situation where the water is cold or there's a lot of fishermen or something like that, then I've seen it when I throw it in the fish in general just get scared of it and move away. I think it's maybe it's too loud for them or something like that.
Yeah.
But when they're actively feeding and when they are like in hunting mode, that clacking now a noise, man, that thing is money. And again, I forgot the name of it. I'm pretty sure it's not War Eagle, but I have to look it up. But if you have this, if you ever gonna go buy a buzz bait, go check them out. I always recommend buying both the one that, like I said, that makes that clackling noise because it hits the blade, hits the head of the jig, or and buy one that doesn't, that has more of a natural bubbly sound, that bloop 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 bloop. Because if they're high pressure, to me, they're just gonna be scared when they hear that huge clacking noise coming through.
Yeah.
So that to me is the difference. I started early in the year, wouldn't work, but as the temperature got warmer, especially in Lake Fork, I was fishing the KBBT, and I think I caught like an 18 incher out of it, and immediately as soon as I threw it in the water, it would they were on hunting mode and they can see it from far away. There have been times where I'm on Lake Whitney, where the water is really clear, and you can see them like other corner of your eye just torpedo them from the side. Like all of a sudden, I see a wake coming like 100 miles per hour, and boom, just smashes the crap out of it. And that's how you can tell they're attracted to that noise. They're actively feeding, so they hear that clack and they just want to go and find out what it is. So that's to me is the number 4 bait. And I use a trailer hook with it. I started using
Mm.
trailers, soft plastic, but I ended up just discarding the soft plastic and putting in a red trailer hook, the ones that have the eyes waxed, so it kind of holds it there.
Yeah.
I kind of like love and hate relationship with them because if you have like this um, vicious cast, or it'll the hook will move. So was it? I think it was the Noob Show that we're talking about different types of trailer hooks, and I need to look into those because there's some of them that are better than the others. But regardless, to me, I prefer to have a trailer hook than a trailer soft plastic, just because it gives you that extra hook. Because there's been times where I land the fish, and when I look at it, yeah, if it wasn't for the trailer hook, I wouldn't have caught it.
I
All right.
like taking on your trailer hook.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't like putting soft plastic on a buzz bait.
Mm.
I like having the skirt and then the trailer hook, and then I like taking a small grub, feeding it on, so it still has a little kick at the back.
That's cool.
And I've had a lot of success with that, especially 2 years ago in lacrosse. I smashed them on that, and I take that jig off or that little grub off, and they wouldn't hit it. Put that little grub on there, and that just a little bit of flicker there at the end, and it was over.
Mm.
And the reason that got me thinking too, now the reason why I got that specific buzz bait is because I used to have the Jenko buzz bait, which to me is the perfect happy medium between having one of these big clacking buzz bait and just the typical buzz bait that just has that bubbling sound. Because the Jenko one has that little spring on the jig head, and what it does, that blade hits the spring, so it won't wear out the head of the jig, but it still gives you. It doesn't give you a loud clacking sound, but it does give you a little bit of a buzz because it's just constantly hitting that spring. So that's another one that I like. Unfortunately, I lost that one early in the year. I got either, I don't know what happened. There's something got it, or but it broke off. So I ended up, I couldn't find one, so I ended up buying the one that I was just mentioning. But that's another option. That Jenko buzzbait, the one that has a little spring on the head, that's also a nice buzzbait that gives you that little extra vibration and sound on it. Cool. So number 3, what do you got, John? What's your number 3?
My number 3, I have 2 number 3s.
Ooh, 3A and 3B.
They're very similar in style, design, but each functions a little bit differently. And these are the Spro Spitter and the Spro Glide.
Nice.
Now, I love these. I fish these baits all year long. If there's grass, well, I'm a topwater. Everybody knows me as a topwater guy. I fish these all year long. If there's grass, if there's schooling fish, there's chasing shad, bluegill, up shallow, off the edge of mats, grass, pads, whatever, I'll use these. Now, the Glide, I like throwing in the thicker, heavier rotted mat because it actually goes better than the regular frog. And it gives you a little bit of better wake, and you can make it dance better than the frog. And then when you hit open water, you can turn that thing and make it do all kinds of weird dives, jokes, and the fish will kill it. And like I said, I use just a shad color or the bluegill color, and they go nuts. And I will fish it through everything, and it doesn't hang up much. That's what's nice about the Glide. It's good through pads. It's one of the best frog I think Spro makes. And then the other part is their spitter it's kind of a mini popper. But what's nice about it, you can work this like a spook and give it some killer action, and it's pushing that water. Even though you have nothing in there going clack, wow, wow, just that moving that water, slightly popping it, making it dive, juke, and then resting it, stopping it like a wounded bait fish. Some of my bigger fish this year, and even the last several years, but this year, have come off of this, and my favorite one has just been the good old bluegill, the little sun perch, and they have annihilated it. My 24-incher this year come off of that right there, that one right there. If you look at it, it's kind of wore out.
24-incher?
I used the hell out of it. So that's my 2-3. My 3 are the Glide and the Spitting Frog from Spro. Very similar in way you can fish them, but each one has just a little bit of extra specialness depending on. And what's good about the little spitter too is you can work this through pads without, like some poppers will kind of hang up, but you can work these through pads like a dream and give that little extra plow, pop, especially in deeper pads. So that's my 3. Like I said, 65-pound Teflon Force is what I use on this on a 7-3. Sometimes I got one that, depending if they're really wanting it fast, I got a 9-1. But those, a lot of big fish this year.
Nice. Gotta love those topwater frogs.
Oh,
Cool. Okay, Dan, what about you? What's your number 3? Number 3, yeah.
Well, he said 24, but the biggest fish I caught this year was 23 and a half, and it came on an eco rig. So That's my number 3. It's a and my setup is as simple as it can get. I use um, it's a Z-Man bang stick, and if you've never thrown this, use it because it's so simple. It's so versatile. I use 2 colors, black and blue laminate. I use that for dirty water, and I use the deal for clear water. That's it, 2 colors. And I use the Z-Man Nico Shrooms weight. I use 1/20th if it's 10 feet or less, and I use 1/15th for 10 or more. 2 weights, 2 colors. I use 8-pound Seaguar and Vizex. I use a 2500, well, it's 8-pound Seaguar and Vizex to 12-pound Sunline SX1 braid on a 2500 quantum reel. I use a medium rod, a 7-foot smoke rod, and that's it. Just as simple as it can get. And you can use it like a shaky head. It skips really well. I caught it kind of underneath the bridge on Gunnersville. Obviously, it's one of those, bridge on Gunnersville, but or close to a point off a bridge on Gunnersville. But yeah, you can do so many different things with it. It's just one of those super versatile baits. If you're only going to carry 3 or 4 rods, it's hard to like. If you can use it as a Senko, you can use it as a shaky head. You can use it as a weighted Senko. You can use it as a lot of different things. And let's say you don't want to carry a whole bunch of soft plastics. You can cut down that bang stick and make it into a Ned. You can use that bait for a lot of different things. So it's just super versatile. So if I were going to carry one rod, that's probably the one I would carry. I'd carry that Nico rod because I know I could go out and catch a heck out of them with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good one. Mine is kind of similar. Number 3 for me is the weightless Senko. I struggle with. I don't have the patience for it. But this year I went fishing with. I had the pleasure of going fishing with Catherine Fields when she came to visit Texas, and we went to Lake Athens, and she was wearing him out on the Seaman Zinker. You know, the one that actually sinks. I'm not a fan of it, but she really was wearing him out on that, and she got me on this Gamakatsu. I'm Gama. It's not Gamakatsu. Is it
Yeah.
Gamakatsu? Yeah. Okay, I said it right. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
With the little um weed guards on it, and it's weightless. And obviously, and, if you're doing a Z-Man sinker, you don't need that rubber band. But I don't like the Z-Man sinker that much, so I just stick with the Yamamoto Senko. And for that, obviously, I'll use the little rubber bands. And what I'll do is I'll put like 2, like in an X. That way, the hook is gonna go right through the middle and facing sideways instead of
Yeah.
like a Neko rig when it kind of faces. It's hard to describe on a podcast, but
Yeah,
anyways,
it's kind of in line with the hook. But I use one weedless wacky hook that has the 2
yeah,
weed guards, and with the Z-Man, you can do it sideways, not in line with the worm, but sideways. So you don't
yeah,
have to use an O ring. That's the same hook that I use on
yeah,
my setup.
yeah. That's an amazing the gum. That hook is amazing. So I started using that, and just learning to be patient with it. Because if I forget, it takes forever to get down there. So I mostly use it, on 5 foot of water or less. But just like throw it out there. And I remember Catherine was telling me, let it, don't touch it, don't. Because my first thing just pop it a little bit. But he was like, no, just let it reach the bottom. Just think of something else while you let it. Just don't think about it. So I've little by little I've learned to be patient with it, and with a lot of success. Now it doesn't cost me that much to be patient because I've actually seen the fruits of the labor, and it is an amazing setup, especially on high pressured. It's super easy to skip under docks. I would recommend skipping on docks like um, those big docks you see, for in a marina that has those cross wiring stuff like that. I wouldn't recommend it just because you get a lot of wiring and a lot of structure down there, and you're probably going to use a light setup for it, so it's going to wrap up. My experience with it, it's hard to get that fish to come out of there. But on little like houseboat docks, those houses that are like have the lakeside and they have a little boat dock that just has 4 sticks, one on each end, and then doesn't have anything in the middle. Those I can skip with more confidence and not worry about getting hung up or tied around a bunch of crossing bars or cables or stuff like that. But I love skipping those. You can skip it like 10, 15 feet into it if you kind of master the technique. It's really good. I love it. And actually, I'll throw a black and blue or green pumpkin. So watermelon, green pumpkin. Those are the only two I stick with. Cool. So, John, number 2 bait. What about yours? Number 2.
Number 2 bait is the one that I've caught the most fish and the biggest fish. Is the ghetto Spro Popper in Amazon Red.
Nice.
And I fish this different than most people. Most people,
Lost him.
I don't know. I live by the philosophy: never force it, just get a bigger hammer. So most people throw their and they'll pop, 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 pop. No. I'm tuna fishing with this joker. Wham, wham, whap, 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 whap. And then I'll stop it. And I'll twitch it a little bit, and then it's back to tuna fishing. And my biggest fish that I've caught, and I've caught a bunch of big fish, have come off this frog. Well, tell us wore out a little bit. The Amazon Red, all year, any time of year, tuna fishing this joker. And Spro makes a tough frog. And like I said, don't be, if it's super cold, yeah, you got to play a little gentle. But if the water's warm or they're feeding or, they're there in those pads, you come ripping this joker across. They can't handle it. It's that noise and that thing going across, and they kill it. I mean, there's no, I'm going to come up. No, I'm knocking you the hell out. We're going home. And I love this bait. And like I said, I fish it heavy, fish it hard, fish it fast. And it works for me. So, yeah, but that's my secret weapon right there.
If y'all have never seen his kayak, go online, go on Facebook, and check out John's kayak. He has a really kind of, him and Brad Case, they have that really similar front angled rod setup that's really interesting to check out.
Well, it helps fishing under trees and stuff. That's what I like about it.
Oh yeah. Well, mine do the same thing, except they go back. They don't like on my box. My box, they go straight back instead of yours just are forward that way. Same thing, just the opposite direction.
Yeah, I'm so big and goofy. I can't have anything behind me. If I do, I'm breaking rods. I mean, slinging rods. It's ugly. I mean, absolutely ugly.
I like it's so custom though. I dig your setup.
Well, thank you.
That's something I've been meaning to get on. Like I have an Hobie Outback and I love it, but every day I'm thinking of getting like a PA-14 just because I wanted those rods on the side. There's so many times so I just forget where I'm at and I'm just focusing catching a fish. And when I look back, my rods are all tangled around some brush, low-hanging brush or tree, and I'm like, screw it. Now it's just gonna scare the whole fish away here. So that's one thing that I've been like. That's like I need something like that, but for now the Hobie Outback will do. All right, number 2 for you, Dan. What's up? So what do we got?
A Dirty Jigs tour level pitching jig. It's and if I go out 99% of the time, I'm going to have a pitching jig in my kayak tied on. I just am. If there's something in the water, it's getting a jig thrown at it. That's just It seems like every time I go out, at least if I'm in a tournament, at least one of the fish I weigh in is going to come off a jig because it's just going to be that random laydown, that random piece of structure, that random something that, and a lot of times the biggest fish I weigh in that day is going to come off a jig. I'm kind of that swindle kind of mindset where I'm super simple with my colors. I actually have three. In the early spring pre-spawn, I use Alabama crawl, which is orange, because I've seen it down here. Maybe that's a regional deal, but like me and my buddy would fish right next to each other with the same exact jig, different colors. He had orange, I didn't, and he caught them 5-1. So now I always have orange in the pre-spawn whenever the water's super cold. So I use Alabama crawl whenever the water's like 65 and below, something like that. Not like hard set temperature, but somewhere around there. Black and blue in dirty water, and brown crawl whenever it's not. Um, Usually half ounce. I carry 3/8 too. I usually really only use 3/8 if I'm trying to, like, if it's real super high pressure and I'm going down bluff walls or something. I'm trying to get that real slow fall. Just high pressure situations, but usually always half ounce. Reaction Innovation Sweet Beaver. Spicy Beaver. I kind of went to that this year. That's been my thing.
Kinky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're a local company too. I try to support them. I'm really not in. I love women, but I'm not into all the stuff on there. It's not really like my thing. But yeah, the Spicy Beaver. That's a legit deal. But I really don't have a favorite. I own some soft plastics. I really haven't found one that's like the one that you have to have. I own all of them. It's a problem. But yeah. Rod, I'm actually on my Christmas list. The one I really want because I have a weak hook set, so I want to go to a heavier rod. I want an extra heavy rod. There's a Falcon. Falcon. I know Falcon's not listening, but if you are, Falcon, give me a call because I want that extra heavy, the Falcon Expert. Like, I'm not sponsored by a rod company, but Falcon or anybody really. Hey, Douglas Bailey, give me a call. I'll take an extra heavy.
Douglas has a nice extra heavy rod.
Hey,
What length are you looking for?
X Matrix. I'll
Yeah.
I'll shout you out. But no, I need a new flipping rod. I have a Ducket, and Ducket's kind of a jerk, so I really don't want to use his stuff anymore. I'm just saying, like I kind of want to get rid of the old white rod, but I've been using that I have a heavy now. But
Yeah, I'm not gonna say a word.
I kind of want to go to extra heavy. Is all I'm saying. I had some of these good people muchachos, so I'm a little loose tonight. But yeah, extra heavy fast. That's what I like to be throwing. I'm throwing a heavy now. 25 cigar and 25 pound cigar and Bizex 7-3-1 quantum smoke. That's what I use. So yep. But pitching level, that jig's really good. The tour level pitching jig's good because you can do a little bit of everything. It's an Arky style. Any brand's good. I'm kind of caught up with that dirty jigs because their stuff's so quality. But Arky style is really good because you can still bring it out and drag it some. So it's still like like if you go out and pitch it on a lay down, you can still bring it out some. It's not
the most
like
versatile.
Yeah, it's more versatile than like just a flipping jig would be. You can still do a little bit with it. So I think being a kayak angler, you have to have baits that are a little bit more versatile. So that's why I throw a pitching jig rather than just a flipping jig. There we go.
I'm gonna regret this question, but what was it? I didn't see the inside. I missed the inside story. Why did you have to specify you like women? I know I'm regretting this question.
Reaction Innovations, everything's like Beaver or Pocket Rocket. Like all their stuff's kind of exploitive, Innuendo.
Oh,
Look at their packaging.
okay,
That's
okay.
what I'm saying. Like, I go to church. I mean,
okay.
you go to church on Sunday, and on Saturday you're throwing.
Okay.
It's called Beaver with a chick on the thing.
I know.
I don't know how.
I was curious. I was like, why does he have to specify
it's
like
Alabama,
women?
no marital age, right?
I'm just saying, like, they're here. I'm literally one town away from where they're at, so I try to support them. But I'm not saying it's like, you know, the best. Like, do I want my kid to be looking at the packaging? Is all I'm saying.
Is that the one that kind of had a beef with Natalie from Dylan from Natty Up North? I know last year she called somebody out hard, and it kind of became this social media thing for those that follow fishing. Obviously, if you don't follow fishing, you probably heard of either Natty Up North or that company. But I know they went back and forth on something. Because there was one bait company that I guess, and as she understand it, exploits women.
Oh,
So
I
she
have
went
no
off
doubt
on a
that's them,
tangent.
man. I mean, their
Okay, yeah,
colors are
might have
like
been. I'd have been. I don't know.
Donkey Punch and Dirty Sanchez, and I mean that's you know,
All right,
yeah,
all right. I knew I was gonna regret
great
it.
bait.
but but yeah.
Uh,
Okay. No, John is like, yeah, I'm staying out of this.
no, you just don't want to get me started.
All right, that was your number. What was that? Number
Two.
two? Number two. Yeah. I kind of lost track. Okay, so my number two is kind of like I think was Dan's number three, but a little bit different. Um, I saw this either late last year or earlier this year. I can't remember. But once again, one of the social media content creators that I love, that I always joke around that he made an honest angler out of me. It's Fluke Master Gene Jensen, and again, he came up with this video of, he called it the Forgotten Rig. Wired to Fish did a couple of months later, did another video, and they call it the Child's Play Rig. And essentially, to me, it's a combination between a Neko rig and a net rig.
Yeah,
I call
I,
it
I know
a
what you're talking about.
weedless net. Yeah,
Yeah,
a weedless net. That I started using that because um it moves. You can move it a little bit faster than a net rig, and obviously a lot more faster than a Senko. So to me, it was that perfect medium where it's not too finessey. I don't have to be that patient with it. But it is absolutely just like Fluke Master advertised it. If you're struggling and you need to catch a fish, and it'll land you big fish. Like I've caught huge fish with this setup. And what I love about it is I kind of got away from the net rig because of it, because to me that's kind of like a net rig, but it's weedless. So on lakes like Lake Athens here in Texas, at which I had a tournament, the pre-fishing, that lake is just grass. There's not a square inch of that lake where there's no grass. It's just grass everywhere. So that day we had a cold front and it was high pressure, and to me it's like, well, what do I do? So I went back. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna try this that I saw on Fluke Master video. It's the first time I tried it, and I loved it because I can just cast it out. Don't worry about getting it snagged, and work it. Either I can work it fast or work it slow. And I mean, it's an amazing. That's my favorite. I guess you can call it finesse techniques. Um, I use it on. I started using it now with the Z-Man product, not the Zinker, just the regular TRD worm. And what I do is same thing. You get the nail head. You put it on one end obviously, and then on the other end you'll just Texas rig it. You'll Texas rig the tail of the worm, and then at the other end it's kind of like a Neko rig. So essentially it's like a Neko rig, but instead of being like a circle hook on the middle, it's gonna be Texas rig on the tail. So it's weedless. And mostly I'll do either same thing, black and blue, or watermelon green pumpkin. Um, and those are that's that thing. I mean, I've caught huge fish with it this year, and a lot of fish with it. Usually when you think of a net rig, you think, okay, it's going to be like a bunch of 12, 14-inch fish. But actually I've caught like 17 and 18-inch fish with this setup. So I love it. It's one of those things where I kind of forgotten about the net rig just because of the way I can fish this. Just a similar way. Um, Great results, and again, it's weedless, so don't have to worry about getting it caught on anything. So that's my number 2. All right, number 1. Drum
Real
roll.
quick before
John.
Real quick before we
What's
go to
that?
number 1, back
Yeah.
to the popper. I meant to say that I fish the popper on a 6.6 rod and medium heavy.
Wow.
Everybody's like, medium heavy. I said, well, I'm on braid and I can bend hooks. So that's why. But the key to using a popper is the shorter rod, not the longer rod. You don't want that load up like on sometimes you want to load up. This is when they hit it, you're wanting to take both of those eyes and switch them. So that's why I use a shorter rod for that. Okay.
That's a good tip. There you go.
Yeah. So anytime you use a popper, go short. The number 1 bait for me this year that I've caught, Lord, I've caught more fish this year on. Like I said, I'm on a Nate's theme here, but Nate makes some great baits, man. I'm telling you. And this is his version of the vibrating jig chatterbait style. It's the Nate Custom Baits hybrid vibe jig, and I always fish a grub trailer on it, usually a white with a dip of chartreuse. This happens to be my favorite spring, because it has the red, the orange, and yellows. And like I said, I've caught some monsters on this joker. Hell, I've about wore this one completely out. And then I've used white, and he has white and red, like with lacrosse this year for the BASS up there. The white and red, I caught 42 fish on it. It was unreal. And then he goes have bluegill, and just variety. But once again, this has, and I've fished a jackhammer, and I fished all different ones. But as the best action, this thing hunts like no other. And it has a distinctive thump to it. Because you got the clack, 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 and the tink, 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 tink of the jackhammer. And this has more of a ka-tunk, 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 ka-tunk. And with that hair, it just flares and it searches and it dives and jukes, and it's awesome. And I mean, I don't get corner lip. I get inhaled on this. And after, like I said, after using it a couple times, and I got hooked and completely sold on this product. And yes, I admit now I'm with Nate's, but it was only after using his baits, and I've been using them since the year before last. And we just kind of hit it off, and I love his baits, and they're fantastic. That's my number 1 bait, because I will fish it like a jig. I will, fish it like a crankbait, weeds, brush, the whole 9 yards. I'm throwing this thing somewhere, and be it if I have to hit him in the head to dragging it through, this bait has done wonders, and that's my number 1 bait.
You throw some wild colors, huh?
Yeah, believe it or not, up until about June, this was and by end of June, this was a great color still. I don't know what it was. It was something different, especially because this year, Gunnersville this year, every day was a Saturday because of COVID. I mean, usually in the week, you might see 2 or 3 boats.
Yeah.
You were seeing 30, 40 boats. Every ramp was full, So every day was a Saturday on Gunnersville this year. So the fish were extremely pressured. And I guess this was just, of course, in the spring, throughout the Southeast, especially, anything red and orange is the key colors. But it still stayed being a key color for me up until literally the end of June. And then about time July rolled around, that white, that wider bluegill, with a bluegill color or straight shad color, and for some cases it was purple. Started mixing it up, but that was the longest running color this year.
Mm.
So,
Nice.
There
See,
you
I
go.
can't get anything to bite on red color here in Texas. I don't know. I have to ask other anglers around because I've tried. Like I've always same thing. I always thought, well, like Alabama and you guys get a lot of like that on spring, early spring, late spring. You get a lot of like bites on red color. Here, I can't. Very rarely do I get. It's like
They
maybe I'm
literally,
doing something
they
wrong,
literally
but
sell colors called Rayburn Red. Come on now.
maybe in maybe in Sam Rayburn, but over here in North Texas, man, I can't get anything to bite on red. And I've
You
tried,
know,
but
Rayburn's like Louisiana extended. So
yeah,
Yeah.
it pretty much, yeah. All right, so number two for you, Dan.
Number one.
What do we got?
uno,
Number
boss,
one. I'm sorry,
uno.
number one. Number
Yeah,
one. Yeah, my bad.
my number one, man, if I can catch a fish on, I'm a happy man. If it's the deal, if it's the bite, I feel like I'm a cash a check. That's a swim jig. It just, if I can throw a swim jig, I'm a happy camper. And again, it's dirty jigs. They have one called the Coosa River version. Unless I'm down in Florida, that's the version I'm throwing. It's not that no jack super thick hook. It's kind of a good in between. It's not a light wire. It's just a normal one. I'm usually doing that Alabama shake. Somebody that has the best video is Randy Howell. He has a YouTube video called "How to Power Swim a Jig." Watch that. That's the video to watch. It's like the ultimate definitive video of how to power swim a jig. He's originally from North Carolina and moved to Alabama. Watch that video. That's how you do it. But yeah, quarter ounce if they're super shallow. Most of the time, I'm throwing at 3/8. Again, I use not a lot of different colors. I use Alabama crawl, which is that orange. I use that in late winter, early spring. I use Alabama brim, which is I usually use that more in the summer. That's kind of a color I don't tell anybody about. Black and blue for dirty
Except
water
for
and
now.
white. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a little bit of juice. I'll give you a little
Nobody
bit more.
listens to my podcast anyway, so it's
No,
okay.
yeah, they do. I'll give you black and blue for dirty water and white, kind of the shad spawn and fall. But I really, and most of the time, I'm almost 99% of the time, I use Rage Menace and just match the
Oh
colors.
yeah.
But really, I will give you some juice right here. Talking about reaction innovations in the late winter and the like pre-spawn mats, especially here in Alabama. But wherever you live, if you have dead grass, get a Reaction Innovations Trixie Shark and put it on the back of a swim jig. Or you can use a toad too. And put it on the back of a swim jig and slow roll it over dead mats. That is some juice, and I promise that works. Nobody else does it. It's a real thing. Pros do it. You'll never hear it talked about, but it's a real thing. Trixie Shark on the back of a quarter ounce swim jig. There you go. That's my secret for the night. But I use a 7.3 arc Randall Tharp moneymaker. It's like a medium heavy, more of a parabolic. It's actually more like a heavy rod. It's like a budget rod. It's okay. Um, I actually prefer a little bit lighter rod because I like skip it and things like that. Really kind of more pinpoint kind of cast. So I like a little bit lighter rod. People like Bill Lowen prefer more of that broomstick kind of deal. But a faster reel like 7.3 to 1, and I use 50-pound braid. So there it is. But some people like I've heard other pros say 30-pound braid is a deal. I actually bought like Swindle. I bought some braid from him like 8 years ago. He was changing, probably 7 years ago. He was changing from Vicious to another sponsor, and I bought like 5,000 yards, or I don't know, thousands and thousands worth of yards from his assistant. The guy Darian is fishing. If you've ever seen his YouTube page, he used to be Swindle's. He's Luke Duncan. Him and Darian hang out a lot. Well, Darian used to be Swindle's assistant, and he sold me. He used to sell all of Swindle's old stuff. Like, that's what they did. Whenever he would change sponsors, I bought thousands of yards of this old 50-pound braid, and I still have thousands of yards of it. I'll have it for another 10 years. So That I use 50-pound. And whenever I say I use 50-pound braid, I use 50-pound braid for everything, just because I have so much of it. I use it for flipping and punching, and I'll be using 50-pound braid for the rest of my life.
That's cool.
There we go.
That you had Adam, was it you that had Adam Reiser on the Reel Down talking about why he used a 65-pound braid? To me, it was interesting. And I didn't know that. Kind of embarrassed about it, but I was always figured, why did people use 65-pound braid? I mean, like guys out there, open water, open ocean fishing, they use 20-pound test line. Why are we using 65-pound for a fish that's gonna weigh 10 pounds or less, probably? But that what Adam Reiser said makes sense, and it has happened to me. It's like it's not that the fish can't handle it. It's when you throw like a topwater frog, and you're ripping it through mats and stuff like that. You get maybe a 15-pound test line. It's gonna wear out, and you're not gonna find out until you break off on it and break your heart by while you lose your favorite frog. So it was interesting. I was like, okay, now I get it. That makes sense. You know, that line is gonna last longer.
I think,
and that has happened to me.
A lot of the smaller stuff, it's like it'll almost cut through the vegetation rather than just, like gliding over it. The smaller diameter stuff, it's almost like it saws on it rather than just going over it. So I think that's another reason why you kind of want a decent sized braid too.
Yeah. So that was eye opening for me. I didn't know that. I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. And it has happened to me where I'm throwing happened to me this year. I was throwing in a top water, and sure enough, I got a bite in it. I couldn't figure out why. It's like it's not the knot. I did a Palomar knot on it. That definitely not the knot. I was like, how did it break a 20-pound test line braid? And then I listened to that episode, and I like, oh, think about it. I hadn't changed that line on that in like maybe a year and a half. So yeah, it was probably worn out. Yeah. So good stuff. Okay, so my number one, it's kind of like falls in line with what John was saying, but to me it was the jackhammer. I mean, jackhammer is everybody's has heard about the jackhammer by now. It's no longer the best kept secret, and I started using it this year, and it really is an amazing product. I've caught pretty much every single fish that I've caught on the jackhammer, and I'm not making this stuff up, has been between 17 and 22 and a half, no, 22 and 3/4 inch. All of it on jackhammers. All of it. I got to a point where late spring till now, that's the only thing I threw. Like I forgot. I was like, I'm not throwing anything else. Like, why would I? And that's something. If you're learning to fish, jackhammer is going to be your best friend and your worst enemy, because you kind of get that tunnel vision and then forget to use everything else. So now I'm kind of forcing myself. Like today, I went out and started kind of put the jackhammer away and went out working on jerkbait technique, which 2 years ago I was catching quality fish on the jerkbait, and I've kind of like gone away from that and just focused on the jackhammer for this year. And I was like, no, let me put it down for a bit, because I'm forgetting how to fish everything else pretty much. If I'm doing a power bait, it's either a jackhammer or a Senko. And me and Jake Harshman were talking about that. You literally can win any tournament with jackhammer and a Senko. That's all you need, pretty much, to at least be there in the money on any tournament. Just because they're both so easy to catch fish with it. And the jackhammer, to me, I have all of them. I have from the 1 1/4 ounce to their lightest, which is, I think, is on the jackhammer, it only goes down to 3/8 of an ounce.
I don't throw one.
And what was that?
I don't throw one.
Why not? Have you thrown any?
I have a rod. I have one tied on. I seldom throw it. I think I'm like the last person in kayak fishing
You're gonna kill yourself.
I mean, I throw it every now and then. I carry it sometimes, but
It's a great bait.
I
I mean, I
seldom.
won't knock it.
I
It's a
really
great
seldom
bait.
throw it. Yeah.
And the thing about listen, what I love about the seamen in general, is their attention to details on their bait. I mean, everything is high quality, and the jackhammer is just the quality of it. It's amazing. Um, my biggest one came. It was 22 3/4. It was actually, and Dan, this is speaking to you. You and I, my most listened episode before I joined Paddle and Fin to this date is that episode you and I recorded about uh, targeting bass on deep ledges.
Hey.
And after I listened to that episode, I had a tournament on Ray Roberts, and when I went pre-fishing, I was like, I listened on the way to the boat ramp, which is
My
like an
mom
hour.
listened to it a lot.
And I was like, okay, and I started put it in practice, and I actually it was on a deep ledge. I'm gonna say it's about it was about 17 feet depth. Cast it out on the jackhammer, the 1 1/4 ounce, black and blue, and I had the Seiko um trailer on it, which I have to apologize because in my last episode with Jake Harshman, I was knocking on the Seiko, thinking that it was a piece of crap, it didn't work, and I didn't like it. I went through the pictures and I texted Jake the next day. It's like, I was going through my pictures. I just realized my personal best came on the Seiko trailer, on the jackhammer. It was my only fish that I've caught with the Seiko trailer, but it was my personal best. So,
I haven't
I
listened to
I
that.
know some people that swear by that as a trailer.
I know, and it has. I just posted it on my Facebook page, and I asked people, comment, what's your favorite trailer? And I had a picture of the 3 trailers that I used: the paddle tail, the kind of
Menace.
like straight tail, and the Rage Menace, which is my favorite one. And like more than half were just talking about the Seiko. And to me, the Seiko, what I learned from that is like it worked great because it was on a deep ledge, just slow rolling it through the bottom. So that really that Seiko, the tail doesn't move at all. Very subtle movement. So when you're looking at like a high pressure, and most fish that you're gonna find on deep ledges, for the most part, they're not really hunting. They're just relaxing. They're just chilling. They're not. If they're out hunting, they're usually in shallow water being active.
Yeah.
They're not hugging deep ledge. So it makes sense that working like a jackhammer slowly through the bottom on a trailer that has very little to no movement, it makes sense that would be attracted to versus throwing a rage tail on it, because those tails are all over the place.
But I mean that's like the same thing, like a scrounge, like Jason Lambert. He won like Pickwick FLW throwing a castic jerky J on the back of a scrounger, because that bait doesn't really do anything on the back of the scrounger, which is it's really it's the same exact thing as throwing a big jackhammer out deep. A scrounger and jackhammer are doing the same thing, and the trailer is doing the same thing. They're not doing anything. They're just making it a little bit erratic. It's not that the trailer is not the issue. That's
Oh,
not.
well, I mean, I don't know.
It's there. It gives them something to grab onto. It helps them. Like that's the way I like soft plastic on the back of a buzz bait. Y'all, it doesn't seem like y'all do as much. Well, John liked the grub, but you don't. But like I like the plastic. It gives them something to grab onto. But I don't really think the trailer. It's not. The trailer doesn't wag the dog. The dog wags the trailer. You know what
Well,
I'm saying?
too, on any type of the vibrating jigs, you put a trailer on your jig, especially if you do it fast, will shoot up quicker than without it, and you get a better actually reactionary from no trailer.
Yeah.
I like to, when I throw it, I always like every single bait that I throw, especially when it's the first time I throw it. If I'm on a clear water, I actually have like at the complex where I live. Like right now in winter, the pool is closed, but I can still go to the pool, and it's clear water. So I like to go over there and try out a couple of my,
Nice. Okay.
especially power technique swim baits, stuff like that, to see how they move. To me, the Rage Menace, I have to disagree on you on that one, Dan, because that tail movement, and I say the Rage Menace could be. I mean, Biospawn makes one similar, but that tail movement, and I actually have a little like 10-second video of it. Those things are kicking like crazy, man. There's no way. There's no way the fish is not gonna notice that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they may not bite it, but to me, that kicking trailer, those flapping uh, Rage Menace tails just flapping around like crazy, like very erratic on the jackhammer, to me does make a difference. I don't know. That's the one that I've got
So
the
jackhammer. What do I know?
yeah. What are you?
Yeah,
Why not
I
just throwing a
guess.
jackhammer?
I don't know. Because everybody else is throwing one.
You wonder why?
Because Dan's slow.
Well, that's true too.
But anyways,
Both can be true.
that is it. That's the top 5 baits for each one of us. So,
There you go.
what do you guys think? You like it?
I swear, all 5 of mine are legit. I swear. I like.
What are you telling them? We're not legit?
No, not at all. I'm saying like.
I say
I
John
know,
somehow is
I
being
know, I'm
paid
saying
by Nate.
no. I'm not saying anything about your 5. I'm saying I brought it with my 5. So I know if you listen to my 5, I have given you legit 5 things. I don't know about y'all's 5, but I
It's
know
not
my
a
5.
competition, Dan. It's not a competition.
Well, I know my 5.
I am
My
telling
5
people.
work and pay off. So.
Well, that's true too. John wins. He wins all that. He won the KBF for Alabama for this year. So listen to him. Or
Yeah.
the region or whatever. He's better than me. Okay. Listen to John.
All right. So this has been the Bass Kayak and Beer segment. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. It's been fun to record with these 2 gentlemen. So at least a little bit of knowledge. I know Dan used a lot of Alabama dialects, and I got lost in half of it. But Translator told me all the stuff that he said. If you're not from Alabama, don't worry about it. Just play the video next to somebody that's from Alabama. They can translate what Dan said.
Oh, we got
What
2
did I
Bama
say? I
guys
don't
on
even know
here.
what I
So.
said.
There's a bunch of stuff you said that I was like, what?
Really? Okay.
It's the
But-
Dirty Sanchez. That's what threw
Sorry,
everybody off.
Oh. Well, that's the name of the color. I'll tell you later.
All right. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're going to be out there on the water, please be safe. Take the necessary precautions. You're probably tired of me listening to me say this, but really, it's winter. Layer up. Take your PFDs with you and be safe out there. Any last words, gentlemen?
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Armando.
No problem, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been the Bass Kayak and Beers Network, presented by Douglas Rods. Have a great night, everybody. Or day, whatever it is. Whatever time you're listening to. Have a great one. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_n_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_n_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in Northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. TRC Covers, protect your investment. Catch Products, shout out to Catch Products. Go to catchproducts.com and put the Paddle and Fin logo directly on your catch board. Shout out to Jig Masters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com, use promo code PNF20 and save 20% on all your jig and tackle needs.